2026 is off to an amazing reading start. I just finished a very intriguing book. Let's get into it. Hey bookish friends, so what can I say? Your girl is back because I just finished an amazing book. When I tell you it was amazing from beginning to end, it was amazing from beginning to end. I was intrigued from the moment I opened the book. The first book that I read in 2026 was Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I think that's how you pronounced her name. What can I say about this book, y'all? You know, I have been talking about in my videos how I'm a thriller girl, and I am. I love a thriller. This to me was more, again, I'm starting to teeter towards more crime fiction, and I really didn't feel like this was a real thriller. There was some little things that kind of, made you think like, okay, what's going to happen next? But it, to me, was more of a mystery because we don't know what the whereabouts is of this local woman missing and her child. This book to me was good because of the structure of the book. I really like the way that the author structured this book. She starts out with a prologue, and so you don't really know that you're actually kind of in not necessarily present time, but you're 11 years in the past. But in the moment, of course, it's present time. So it starts off with you not really knowing who these two characters are. So the first entry of the book is the prologue, and that prologue begins with a young lady who husband comes home from work, and you can tell that they have a contentious relationship. A baby was just born, and he comes home with lipstick on his collar. So he's a cheater, and she knows it. And so then she says, well, now that you're home, I'm going to go out for a run. And he was like, people who go out for a run this time of night, they don't normally come back alive. And so she doesn't care what he says because she's got her own agenda. She's going out herself to meet somebody else. So as she's walking, she thinks she hears something, and then she keeps walking. And you know how you hear the footsteps, the typical stuff that happens in scary movies or thrillers. And when she turns around, she doesn't see anything, but then she has to tie her shoe. And then when she bends over to tie her shoe, you see that it says something about headlights, and then it goes black. So we don't really know who she is or what happened to her. So then it cuts to part one of the book, and part one is titled Delilah. And as a reader, you realize that Delilah is a young lady. We don't really quite know her age. She does say how long she's been in captivity, and she's been kidnapped. And so she is being kept in a basement with another child. So we know that Delilah has been kidnapped. And so that first part really deals with her escape. And she does escape. And when she escapes, she finally comes on this road, and then she meets a lady. And when she tells the lady what her name was, which is Delilah Dickey, the lady is like, oh my God. A part of the reason why I say that the structure of the book is so very important to me and what made it good is because you got these timelines that are kind of shifting back and forth in the book. And I think that it really made it very good, but it was important, I think, for the author to do it that way because it was a way to keep us not really knowing what was going on. So the characters in the chapters are Leo, who is Delilah's little brother, and Meredith, who was Delilah's mother, and Kate, who's a neighbor. Okay, so Kate and Meredith chapters are always 11 years before. And then Leo's chapters are always now. So let me just talk about Leo for a minute because he actually was my favorite character because Leo was a little boy when his sister was kidnapped. She was 6 and I think Leo was 4. And so he doesn't really have a strong memory of her. The sister was never found. And so the dad, he basically never really got over that. So he was like a broken man raising the son. And so Leo, you can tell he just was a type of kid who kind of raised himself at a certain point because his father was so broken. And so that I really liked him because when the child is found and she comes back and was reunited with her father and her brother, Leo just says a lot of funny things that a teenager would say in his mind about the adults around him. And so it just is kind of indicative of another book that I read where the favorite character of mine was a teenager who said a lot of funny things in her mind. But Leo was a lot like that. And so I really enjoyed that character because of the things that he said and how he really came about dealing with this sister of his who had returned. Meredith basically starts getting these anonymous like little messages, and someone tells her, I know what you did. And you don't really know. You feel like that is what's going on in the story, but you really find out that that's just another piece of it. There's a lot going on in this neighborhood because there's neighbors who don't like each other, there's neighbors who don't trust each other, and there's neighbors who feel like they're friendly and they're almost like family. So just to give you a little bit about Kate. Kate is also, again, 11 years before. She's telling her story because Meredith and her daughter Delilah come up missing. The father, Josh, is looking for his wife and his daughter, who is no longer anywhere to be found. And so Kate, who is in a relationship with B, they're neighbors, they live right next door, and the two of them are very close to the family. And so then they get involved with trying to help him find his wife. They start these searches, and they are, just really asking a lot of questions, almost doing their own investigation to B's detriment. She doesn't really like it at all, but Kate just can't help it. She has to know what happened to Meredith and Delilah. Meredith is a doula, and Meredith, basically, she's very invested in what she does. She also teaches yoga. She's like a jack of all trades, but she teaches yoga, and she also is a doula. And so she has a lot of female clients who are having babies. So she can, be at home one minute, gone the next. She, like a doctor, can be called at any time. And so sometimes she leaves her husband and her kids at home while she's taking care of her clients. We find in the story that her client was actually the woman who was in the prologue, Shelby. Her name is Shelby, and her husband's name is Jason, and Shelby is pregnant. So again, the prologue was about Shelby. The last time we see Shelby, she saw headlights, and then it went to black. Now we see her in 11 years before, when Meredith is actually, she's hired Meredith as her doula. Meredith is getting these messages. So you feel like someone's after her, someone knows something, someone's blackmailing her, but you really don't really know what that's about until you really get down to it. I don't want to give anything away because that's not the point of this review. This is just a review to let you know how I felt about it, how I feel about my reading right now. I just feel like I read this book in a very timely manner. I felt like I paced myself, and I think that's why I enjoyed it. But I really more so want to just talk about how I feel like the writing was paced and the way the writer used the characters as their chapter, the chapters were named after those characters, and why I felt like that was what made it so good. I think it was important to have these characters tell their sides, even though we know in the now, Leo is about 15, so his sister who has returned is about 17. And so she, of course, doesn't have any of the standard education that he has, so he's also smarter than her, and she's a little scared, which is understandable because she's been in captivity for so long. So I thought it was important to get his perspective. Then also you have 11 years before, where we have Meredith and we have Kate, and we see how these women kind of navigate through their lives, and how Kate really, is just trying to figure out what happened to Meredith. And then we know that her before is after Meredith is gone, and Meredith's before is leading up to when Meredith and her daughter turn up missing. Now, let me tell you something. All the things that I'm saying really doesn't do this book justice, because, I can give you all the ins and outs of the characters, and I can tell you that this happened and that happened. Let's talk about the twists. The twistiness of it all. And I feel like this book was more of a mystery because we don't know what happened to them, but the way the author wrote them, she was taking you on a journey to see what happened to them. And I'm gonna tell you something. I usually go into a thriller not really trusting a whole lot of what I see. I always kind of think, okay, what's her angle? What's his angle? What's going on? Can I trust him? Oh yeah, that's a red herring right there. Yeah, That didn't happen in this book. First of all, there were multiple twists, okay? One was what happened to Shelby in the beginning. That was one. Two, what really happened to Meredith? Three, what happened to Delilah? Why can't we find her? And four, the kidnapping. What was up with that? Yeah, there was a lot going on with this book. I felt like this book was everything that I want a book to be. I want it to shock me. I want to be intrigued. I don't mind guessing a little bit of the plot, but I want to be fooled. And I was fooled. You know, there was a part of me that had a glimmer of, is this person involved? But then it was like a smidge, like a nanosecond. It was not long at all. So I can't even claim that I got it. Yeah, I was right, because I wasn't. I wasn't at all. And the ending was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Now, this book to me, I read some of the comments that other readers stated in or wrote in their Goodreads, and it's a lot of mixed reviews, but that's the reason why I love reading. I love to read things for myself. I don't like to go on what somebody else says about the book that they read. I think that it's very important for us as readers to read things for ourselves, because we get things differently than what someone else would get out of a book. And so although I can understand some of the things that I read in the comments that were made, but as far as what it did for me, I felt like this book did everything that I wanted it to do. It kept me guessing. It kept me turning the page. It kept me intrigued enough for me to continue to read. I was never bored. And when I got to the end, the ending was just so satisfying to me. I was so satisfied with the way it ended. And I never saw it coming. I'm not going to lie. I never saw it coming. Mary Kubica, this is my first book that I've read by this author. And yeah, there's a couple of other books out there that I think that I'm going to read. I think I have like the nicest couple I think this author wrote. I have that in the collection at my media center at my school. So I think I might try to give that a try, because that one had some interesting reviews too. And again, I can't go by what other people say. I've got to read stuff for myself. This book, as my first read of 2026, I am thoroughly happy. A 4.5 star for me. I thought it was a very good read. It kept me intrigued. It kept me interested. At the end, I was like mind blown. I could not believe what I was reading. I couldn't believe the audacity of what really occurred. And I just really loved the way the book made me feel. And that's what I'm going for this year, is how the books make me feel. Because if I don't like it, I'm going to DNF it. I'm going to move on to the next. But this one was very much worth the read. I'm going to be doing a lot of these little smaller reviews of books as I read them. And so if you will like and subscribe, you'll find more little tidbits of the things that I say about books throughout this year. And then I got a couple of other videos up where I talk about how I delve into like romantasy for the first time, and a couple of book hauls. I'll see you next time. Bye.